They've been shown to combat SIBO. Again, details here to follow. They've been shown to be antifungal and antiparasitic. So even though we sometimes might think, well, it's a bacteria, how is that something that can function like an antibiotic? It's because probiotics actually release antimicrobial peptides that exert this antibacterial, antiparasitic, and antifungal action. Not only that, probiotics tune your immune system. There are certain receptors in the lining of the gut, PRRs or pattern recognition receptors, TLRs, toll-like receptors, and we've discussed on the show in the past, one in particular, toll-like receptor 4, that regulates leaky gut. And this is probably why when we examine the outcome data, we see improvements in cognition, improvements in depression, and ability to balance an overactive limbic system in the brain, the ability to help with enhancement of absorption of thyroid hormone, anti-COVID benefits, the ability to reduce skin rashes and other breakouts, improvements in IBS, improvements in inflammatory bowel disease, improvements in constipation, improvements in SIBO, and the list sort of goes on, but that's a decent run through. If probiotics can help SIBO and all these other things, then we want to make sure to integrate probiotics into our healthcare plan for SIBO. So let's jump in and examine the literature and then give you a summary protocol that, again, you can use at home. Oh, and by the way, if this video has been helpful, please comment and subscribe. Always curious to hear people's thoughts on especially this topic. Some context here, I see a lot of this, and it is something that I've published on and myself and our team continues to research, and we currently have actually a paper in peer review on the treatment of SIBO. So I think I'm fairly qualified to comment. Okay, the framework here for probiotics, there's 3 types. The first is Saccharomyces boulardii. It's actually a fungus. 2022 randomized control trial wanted to assess the impact of this type of probiotic, Saccharomyces boulardii, on SIBO. They gave 10 billion CFU per day. They documented an 83% resolution rate of SIBO with probiotics as compared to a 23% resolution rate in the placebo group. Because remember, we want to be looking at placebo. In this case, it was enough to get you 23%, but much better improvements when using probiotics, 83% resolution rate. This is not the only trial of its, a 2023 clinical trial looking at Saccharomyces boulardii. In this case, combined with a low FODMAP diet, they gave 10 billion CFU of the probiotic per day. And at only 2 weeks, they documented a 40% resolution rate of SIBO with this combination of dietary changes plus Saccharomyces. And also, I should mention, there was an improvement in symptoms like diarrhea and abdominal pain. So that's the first type, the Saccharomyces boulardii, the healthy fungus. Now, we should also mention more of the traditional type of probiotic. These are blends of Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. So if you look on the label, you'll see 7, 10, 15 or so different species of Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. A 2014 randomized control trial looked at one of these probiotics, the blends of Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium, at 5 billion CFU per day. They demonstrated anywhere between a 24 to 40% either resolution rate or improvement rate in SIBO when compared to the controls. Also, the symptom reduction was better in the group who were given the probiotic therapy. Perhaps the most landmark study in this regard was in 2019. They looked at the Lactobacillus with Bifidobacterium combined with Saccharomyces, 5 billion CFU per day, and they saw a 71% improvement rate in symptoms in those with SIBO. Now, they compared this to a group that had symptoms but did not have SIBO. They only experienced a 10% improvement in their symptoms. So what this tells us is those who have SIBO and symptoms might be more likely to see symptomatic improvements than those with just symptoms. And this is part of the reason why the researchers concluded, quoting, IBS patients with SIBO benefited most from the administration of probiotics. So if your doctor or you're reading a healthcare guru or healthcare provider's blog, what have you, tells you not to use probiotics for SIBO, hopefully you're seeing that there's a very compelling scientific case that you should use probiotics if you have SIBO. And let's go over one more trial. Coming back to what I had mentioned a moment ago, that there are some data comparing directly antibiotics to probiotics. So from a 2010 clinical trial looking at 50 patients with SIBO, they were given either the antibiotic metronidazole or a probiotic, and this was a blend of bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, like we discussed. After 5 days, the symptomatic improvement in those given the probiotic was 82%. And in those on the antibiotic, it was 52%. So to those who may lead you to believe antibiotics are better than probiotics, it's contestable, but I would certainly say there's enough data to say you should use a probiotic, and perhaps you will have a better symptomatic response and SIBO resolution rate when using a probiotic. And then the final type of probiotic, looking at firstly the Saccharomyces healthy fungus, secondly the traditional sort of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium blend type, and then third we have the newer kid on the block, the soil-based probiotics. A 2009 study looked at 40 SIBO patients. They gave them Bacillus clausii, this is one type of this soil-based organism, at 6 billion CFU per day. The SIBO resolution rate was 47%, leading this group of researchers to conclude the SIBO normalization rate achieved with B. clausii is comparable to that observed with many antibiotics. So pretty compelling stuff, and part of the reason why I've been an advocate for using probiotics in SIBO for many years.